Good evening. My name is Berdetta Hodge, President of Tempe Union High School District Governing Board. Tempe Union continues to maintain social distancing for safety of our community. Our meeting is being streamed live on YouTube. The public can view our recording of this meeting using the link on the Governing Board's page of the district website. I call this meeting to order. I'd like to welcome everyone. The time is now 7:02. Let the record show that we have 5 board members in attendance tonight. I will start off with my quote of the day. This one is, it's not happiness that brings us gratitude, it's gratitude that brings us happiness, and it's anonymous. Also, I want to take just a moment just to acknowledge that we have one of our executive team members, our Associate Superintendent, Dr. Stacia Wilson, is now a finalist for Tempe L Superintendent. So we just want to give her a hand on that. And good luck tonight, Stacia. So may I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Thank you so much. May I have a second?
I second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Does anyone wish to go into executive session to discuss the minutes from November 4th executive session? I see no hands, so we'll keep going. All right then. Will everyone please stand for the pledge while we're going to start it off with Sean McDonald will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and after that, a moment of silence. To the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible. Thank you. Now we will start with our report from our superintendent, Dr. Meneville.
Thank you, Madam President, Vice President Garcia, and members of the board, executive team members, and our viewing audience and community members out. We appreciate you taking the time with us this evening. Had kind of an interesting and fun afternoon, and I think we made this information known earlier as we began the year around Marcos de Niza. And Marcos de Niza is celebrating 50 years of our commitment to excellence and a rich history of academic and athletic success. Today, the Marcos staff unveiled a fantastic documentary of Marcos's history over these past 50 years. The numerous accomplishments by past students and teachers are truly incredible in all areas of profession. Please take the time to see the documentary in its entirety. You will be amazed and very proud. But I want to especially acknowledge Mr. Brian Fleming, our Assistant Principal of Activities at Marcos, and our very own Warren Cole, who spent hours and hours for several months, I do know, in putting this together. I know they had a lot of fun doing it, from what I hear, but it is truly amazing work. And thank you to the entire Marcos staff. I want you to, hope you're listening out there, thank you to the entire Marcos staff for your dedication to the education of our students and to help guide our students to see the endless opportunities waiting for them upon graduation. It's evident that you guided them along the way with our past students, and you are today guiding that light, are that guiding light for many of the students presented in the documentary, and that same bright light for our students today. So thank you. Please, public, members of the public community, please take time to see that, because it really is brilliant work and a true testament to the students in our district, particularly in this case at Marcos de Niza. Secondly, I want to acknowledge Dr. Gonzalez and her efforts in working with our exceptional teachers. We have many exceptional teachers, and she helps craft our Words of Wisdom Wednesday. And as we continue to navigate our hybrid model, we continue to be impressed with the creativity and passion of our teachers, showing to build relationships with their students, ways in which they build relationships with their students. There's 12 installments, and the most current one is now featuring special education teacher John Belkis from Marcos de Niza. I'm highlighting Marcos today for obvious reasons. As you will see online, you can see his video message. John has found ways to work with the technology to make sure his virtual and in-person students could connect to each other. So I just want to give a shout out to Dr. Gonzalez for working with our students and bringing forward the talent that we know exists across all our schools, but especially so for acknowledging Marcos de Niza during its celebration of 50 wonderful years. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Meneville. Now it's time for public comment. Dr. Meneville?
Yes, in the absence of Dr. Wilson, Mrs. Hilgers, the Assistant Superintendent for Teaching and Learning, will assist us with this part of the meeting with public comment. Mrs. Hilgers?
This is the time for the public to comment. Members of the governing board may not discuss items that are not on the agenda. Action taken as a result of public comment will be limited to directing staff to study the matter or scheduling the matter for further consideration and decision at a later date. Public comment concerning a specific agenda item is heard at the time that item is addressed by the governing board. The public meeting notice provides the method by which the public may submit comment and have their comments read into the record. Public comment for this meeting was accepted from 1 p.m. Monday, November 16th, until 3 p.m. today. Board members have received a copy of tonight's public comment. The first public comment is from Dr. Carolyn Kavanaugh Toft. To the school board, thank you all for your service to our community. I am the proud parent of 2 children from Corona del Sol High School. My son graduated in 2019, and my daughter is currently a junior. The main reason we decided to have our children attend Corona is because of the excellence of the band program. Most of my kids have flourished musically, socially, and emotionally as a result of their participation in it. Directors David Duplessis, Alex Holst, and Scott Warner have taught them important lessons in responsibility, leadership, and integrity that will help them to be successful in their careers and personal lives. Their classmates in the band are their second family, and I am incredibly grateful for the experiences they have had through this superb program. I understand that the district does not receive enough funding from the state to properly support all programs, and I am continually impressed with how well the directors stretch the funds they are allotted to repair instruments and provide supplies to benefit the students in the program. The directors have worked to create one of the largest and most successful band programs in the state by utilizing tax credit money to fund travel expenses for competitions. Because they do not have the opportunity to travel this year, this would be an ideal time to use tax credit money to purchase music and replace some of the instruments that are over 30 years old and beyond repair. I was surprised to discover, however, that our district does not permit this use of tax credit donations. I do not understand this rule, as other local school districts such as Kyrene, Mesa, and Scottsdale allow for tax credit donations to be used in this capacity. I hope the board will consider changing this rule to allow the directors to use these funds in a way that will best support this amazing program. Thank you for your thoughtful consideration of my request. The second public comment is David Duplessis. He's the band director of Corona del Sol High School. I want to thank our district and site administration for their leadership during these difficult times in keeping safety a priority. Our stipend schedule for extracurricular duties was revised this year, and while some changes were positive, it also had the adverse effect of reducing the percussion instructor stipend amount. This stipend is now at the lowest level, below chess coach and esports coach. At Corona, this effectively lowered the paycheck of my colleague Scott Warner, a 30-year veteran percussion teacher who always goes above and beyond in his duties and spends many hours beyond his contract to offer quality experiences for students outside of the school day. During this pandemic, he has presented virtual concerts, spends hundreds of hours editing video and audio, and provided a sense of normalcy for students in his classroom. He doesn't do this for glory or recognition, but because he cares deeply about students and their well-being. We've brought these concerns to our site and district administration in August, with no follow-up to correcting this big mistake. When comparing to other districts, there is no equivalent to a Scott Warner or Vincent Lopez anywhere in the state. A few years ago, Scott was chosen by a national publication to represent Arizona as one of the band directors that mattered. Tempe Union has inadvertently rewarded 3 decades of hard work with a reduction of pay for one of our best teachers and club sponsors. Please let us know what can be done to rectify this before our school year is over. Thank you. My name is Elizabeth Stanbridge, and I'm a parent of 2 children at Desert Vista High School and am an officer on the Desert Vista Thunder Board. It was brought to the board's attention that the percussion instructor stipend level has been decreased for this school year and has been capped at 7 years, effectively giving the experienced, dedicated instructors a pay cut. When asked, the district has not given a good explanation why the stipend was decreased while so many other stipends were increased. The percussion instructors at DV have played an integral part in the success of the band program. Everything from their performance in competitions in years past to recruitment for the high school. My son was introduced to the DV music program through the Ahwatukee Youth Band and the steel drum program at DV, of which the percussion instructors play a large part. His desire to join the marching band and be involved in the music program was why there was no question which high school he wanted to go to. Both of the percussion instructors at Desert Vista have master's degrees, and that, coupled with their dedication to the program, an integral part in recruitment and performance, makes the pay cut and decrease in level that they have received very unfair. I hope that the district will remedy this. It has brought to the board's attention that the district is not allowing tax credit funds to be used to pay assistant coaches for marching band. The large marching band at DV only functions with inadequate staff, and the assistant coaches are part of that staff. Parents are encouraged to consider donating tax credit funds to support the band program at every parent meeting, with the intent that the funds support the band program. The district is also not permitting the use of tax credit funds for purchase and repair of instruments and to buy sheet music. Most students use the instruments provided by the band program during marching band season. The upkeep and availability of these instruments contributes to the success of performance at competitions. The legislative intent of the tax credit is to allow it to be used for capital items, which include instructional aids and equipment, sheet music, and instrument purchase and repair clearly fall under those categories. In addition, many other districts in our state are permitted to use the tax credit funds for these purposes. I hope you'll include the use of the tax credits for the payment of the band assistant coaches and for the purchase and repair of instruments and the purchase of sheet music. Our next public comment is from Crystal Voss, and she is the current Corona Band Booster President. I've also been a Corona Band mom for over 4 years. Over these last 4 years, I've not only watched my 2 students, but hundreds of other students go through the program. Being able to experience firsthand what an impact this program has had on all of these students has been extremely rewarding. And it's impacted my daughter enough for her to pursue a degree in music education. With all of these changes experienced this year, from online to hybrid classes and socially distanced marching band, Mr. Duplessis, Ms. Holst, and Scott Warner have done an amazing job of making it all work and keeping the students engaged. In a normal year, there would be lots of competitions and traveling, and the band would be able to use the tax credit dollars allocated to them to fund these trips. However, with no trips or competitions this year, those tax credit dollars could be used to repair instruments ensuring students don't have to share an instrument. It could also be used to purchase music, which would continue to keep the students engaged and excited to play. Not only would it help the program, but it would also help take some of the burden to fund these expenses off the district. It's my understanding that other districts allow their band programs to use tax credits for these purposes, and it'd be great if our program could do the same. I ask that you consider amending the current rule and allow them to use these funds for repairs and music. Thank you for your time and consideration. I would also like to thank all of you for what you do to support our schools and our band programs. We couldn't do what we do without that support. We also have another comment that was written to the governing board, and she has asked that it not be read out loud.
Thank you, Mrs. Hilger. Now it's time for the governing board to have comments. We will start off with Board Member Barraza. We'll just go around, or unless you want to go first?
No, I just wanted to make a comment
Okay, go
after
ahead.
the public comment. I know that we're not allowed to respond either to people standing in front of us or to written public comment here in a board meeting, but we are allowed to request that our district look into some of these issues, and I would like to make that request tonight of you, Dr. Mendeville. They do concern me, and I'd like to hear back what your findings are. Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Hem. We'll start with Board Member Barraza, and we'll work our way around the circle till we end with Mrs. Lau.
Good evening, everyone. It's great to see you tonight. I'll be brief. I just want to highlight to Marcos and Nisa, their 50th anniversary, and having attended the principal celebration of the past principals, it was really great to see such history, and really great to be back on campus. I was a graduate, and Marcos, my son's a graduate as of 2018, and it just has so much memories. That's the neighborhood I grew up in. That's the neighborhood he grew up in. So it's really much a community, so it was really great to be back, see all of them. And other than that, I just want to thank all of the community members for all their comments, and all the staff and teachers for their input and for writing all of us. I think it's good to just be able to know what needs to be looked at and so forth. You know, it's nice to know in times of COVID that, like what the concerns are. But I just want to say thank you to all the staff members, and I would like to thank, all of our board members for all the advice and all the work that, they've done throughout the years. I appreciate it. Michelle, you always give me so much insight. Sandy, I appreciate so much insight into how our conversations are, and I just really value our conversations. So thank you so much, and that's all I have.
Thank you, Board Member Barraza. Board Member Hem.
Thank you, Madam President. I too would like to thank our teachers who have been sending emails or giving me a phone call and telling me what it's like out there. And I appreciate that, and I want you to always know that I don't share those. They're all private. I do read every word, and I will always listen and do everything I can to help relieve your stress at this difficult time. I'd also just like to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving. I won't see you till after that, and I want it not only to be a joyful one, but one where you keep others safe. We're always worrying about our safety or our families, but we have that responsibility to everyone we see or meet to keep them safe too. So have a joyous Thanksgiving.
Thank you so much. So it's my turn. I want to first off start off by thanking everyone for their emails and their concerns from the teachers, from the community. Also wishing everybody a happy Thanksgiving. Stay safe. Please wear your masks. Social distance. Also, just want to go into the fact that we did, I'm not sure if we were here, but I think we did Tempe High School field since we've been here last. So it was really nice to dedicate the school, Tempe High's field. And I'm going to say, I was a Buffalo, so I ran on track on that field, and it was, it's deep to my heart, but it's lovely. Also was at several football games. I've been to Mountain Point, Corona, Tempe High, Marcos, and McClintock. I think I went to all of them in the last couple of weeks. So I've been to, and I think Desert Vista too. So I've been to every one of the one of the school's football games, and it's a little different, but I tell you, those parents, they're really trying hard to keep their kids motivated in the sports that they're doing. So just want to give the parents, credit for just being out there and keeping that going, because they're so used to the stands being filled, but those parents are filling it with heart. Also, Corona had a wonderful play. They did the Nutcracker dance recital. It was really cool this weekend. They always do a phenomenal job. That's the second year in a row that I've seen the Nutcracker from Corona. Also got a chance to be at the 50th anniversary for the football, for the principals at the school. It was heartbreaking, and it was touching, because just to see that some of our principals were not there to share with us, but others were there. And just to let you know, Marcos, Vic Sanchez was Tempe High's first, so go Buffaloes. And I was there today to see the documentary. Thank you so much, Warren Cole. It was a phenomenal documentary to see on all the people who graduated from that district and what they have done. And I just want to take a moment to give a shout out to one of Marcos Denise's graduates that I'm very proud of. And, just from where he came into where he's at right now, just want to say congratulations to Andreas Barraza, who is a Marcos Denise graduate, and to the fact that you came from a student to a board member. That's the biggest honor you can do, is to come back and serve your district. So you deserve just as much congratulations as everyone else do. So congratulations on that.
I appreciate that. I think we all, are fundamentally part of the story of Tempe Union.
Yeah,
but
we
I
are,
appreciate
but this
that.
is
Thank you,
your
because
school.
you were a graduate.
Yes,
of
this is your school,
Tempe.
and we want to give you that.
I still work out near it, pass by
Yes.
every day.
So I just wanted to congratulate you on that, and I am going to pass it over to our Vice President Garcia. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, President Hodge. I'll start off with thanking everyone who emails us. We really take the time to read them, and it's important, and it really does have an impact when you do email us, so thank you so much. I want to echo a lot what has already been said. With the Tempe High field dedication, the Marcos Denize 50th principal recognition, and Warren Cole's and Brendan Fleming's, Marcos Denize documentary. We have so many great things going on that, just exudes pride of our district and our schools. Also, I wanted to, we could not join tonight, but the Tempe Coalition was announcing awards, and particularly for folks from our district. The TAP program received the Advocate Award from the Tempe Coalition. So congratulations to Andrea Carmody, Kim Whitmire, and Kelly Wright. In addition to that, Harold Bull received the Inspiration Award for his community leadership, and he is a retired PE teacher at McClintock. And he was also my PE teacher when I was at McClintock. So congratulations to all the folks that are recognized tonight. And I will go in and recognize some gifts and donations for tonight. So thank you so much to Bob's Discount Furniture, Random Acts of Kindness, for their donation to Corona del Sol, Thunderbirds Foundation for their donations to Marcos de Niza. Desert Vista High School received donations from community members Trisha Davison and Sharon Ihan, apologize for the mispronunciation, Inat, for their donations for Best Buddies and Dance over at Desert Vista. And then also we had a couple of anonymous donations, and finally, thank you so much to community members Raymond Mata for a donation to Marcos de Niza and Brett Nunn to Corona del Sol. And I'll just wrap up with kind of a brief statement to recognize Native American Heritage Month for this month. President Hodge, fellow board members, Dr. Mendeville, in recognizing that November is Native American Heritage Month, this month-long celebration is also referred to as American Indian and Alaskan Native Heritage Month. Fittingly, this year's theme is resilient and enduring. We are Native people. This year, with the COVID pandemic, social unrest, and other factors, we have all seen many amazing examples of resilience and endurance, especially in our Native communities and communities of color. This November and every month, we celebrate the rich and diverse cultures, traditions, and histories, and acknowledge the important contributions of Native people. Heritage Month is also the time to educate the public about tribes, to raise awareness about the unique challenges Native people have faced both historically and in the present, and the ways in which tribal citizens have worked to overcome these challenges. Our district is strengthened by the Native American populations that we serve from over 15 different tribal nations. Our teaching and learning department works closely with each tribe to ensure that we are effectively meeting the needs of these students and our consultation obligation. Tempe Union is proud to recognize National Native American Heritage Month and acknowledge the rich and diverse contributions of Native American students, staff, and our community. And I'd also like to thank so much to Mayor Molina, who's the mayor of Guadalupe, works close in partnership with our tribe, and is also our Indian Ed director, as well as members of my own tribe, the Pasquayaki tribe, Councilwoman Campoy and Councilwoman Frias. And thank you all so much for allowing me to share that with you. Leo Buona, thank you.
Thank you so much, Vice President Garcia. Board Member Board Member Lau, I am so sorry.
Out of sight, out of mind. You know, it's not going to take long, will it? Sandy Lau here. Tonight I want to talk a little bit about committee work. This practice of the board has kind of fallen on the wayside, and I'm as much as fault as everyone. But in January, our board, each of us picks one or two stakeholder committees to be a part of during the school year. And the committees revolve around our 4 strategic goals, which is academic excellence, maximizing resources for our students, hiring and retaining qualified staff, and finally developing community relationships. And then we have some subcommittees. And what we have always done is we go to these meetings, and they're held sometimes between 4 and 6 times a year, and we participate, and we really are the eyes of this committee for the board. And I apologize for not bringing this information to you, because it's important that we all, I think, share what our committees are doing, because many times the work of these committees actually turn into a recommendation that Dr. Mendeville presents to us. And so it keeps us all up to date on what's happening on these committees. And so I apologize for the last couple of years not being very good about this. And I would just respectfully request Dr. Mendeville in January that with the new board, you might put this on the agenda and explain why this is important to attend these meetings, and also report back to all of us, if you want to do that, of course. So I'm going to report on 2 that I recently attended. I was pulled into the Tri-District Investment Committee meeting last week. And what this is, it's a committee that pulls together the CFOs from Kyrene, Tempe L, and Tempe Union. And then there's always a board member, and then some other stakeholders. And it's usually 4 times a month, or 4 times a year, and they report on earnings for quarter 1 through quarter 4. And what this is it's our investment accounts that our employees can choose to invest their It's like the 401K if you're in a corporation, but it's the 403B and the 457B account. And one of the advantages that we have when we combine these resources into one group is we can maximize our earnings, minimize our losses, and more importantly, reduce fees that would be charged to us as employees. So last week, we had a report on Q3, and this is done by Siegel Marco Advisors, so it's part of the Siegel, which we use for other things. And I encourage our new board members or our current ones to pick this one, and for me, it's a little intimidating. I had several finance classes in my MBA program, but it was years ago, and this was certainly not my occupation, so I'm not as familiar with finance as some. And we had a 122-page report that was given to me for last Thursday, and so I immediately called our wonderful CFO and said, I don't think I can do this. But I promise you that it's not that hard, and when you go to these meetings, Siegel highlights the 122-page report very well, and it's very understandable, and the more meetings you go to, the more you understand it. So please don't let that intimidate you, and I hope at least one of you will partake in that. So our assets for the 403B government or 403B plan was $18.1 million, and for the 457B program, it was $7.3 million in assets. And both funds were increased over the second quarter, which was heavily impacted by COVID. So funds were doing very well, and this is the biggest quarterly increase since 1947. So that's pretty amazing to me that while the pandemic was going on, the earnings were up. And so the pharmaceuticals continue to surge, predicting for the return of work and finding a vaccine. The IT is up from all the online use and people working from home. Real estate is down because of the commercial space not being in high demand due to people working at home. And then Siegel also noted that this November, being the election year, it's going to have some impacts on the market pending the recounts and the delays. Two funds continue to be on the watch list, and they continue to research these specific funds for review. The CARES Act also makes loans from the investment accounts more accessible during this period of time. And one of the options that we voted to allow this time was the ability for our employees to withdraw from their plan for the birth or adoption of a child. So that is good news. And that's about all I have. That's just a highlight of that meeting. So it's not that difficult. It's pretty straightforward once you have a little bit of assistance in getting to the summary part. And then I attend, I'm on the goal 2 of strategic plan, of our strategic plan. That's to maximize our resources to meet the needs of all of our students. And our last meeting, we had 2 really great presentations. One was from Maria Gonzalez, our Care 7 program and youth specialist, and that was very similar to what we were presented to, I think, at the last study session. But then we also had one from our dear friend and past board member, Zita Johnson, and she shared information about the Tempe Community Action Agency and all the outstanding work that they do for our community. So Diane asked for a subcommittee to be formed, and the purpose of this is we're going to review the list of services from all of our organizations that support our students. And what we're going to try to do is champion a project to get our Tempe Union community involved in giving back to the community that does this support. So one thing we're looking at is, I know I called Threads again today because I'm a volunteer there, and so I had a discussion there as far as what possible needs our staff could address and maybe have a food or not a food, sorry, a clothing drive, a gently used clothing. And Zita's also exploring some of the many things that the city of Tempe does for us. So that's a project. We're going to find a way for our staff and community to give back to these organizations and really help them support our students. And those are basically what I have to report on. I also want to wish Marcos a happy 50th, and I have not seen Warren Cole's film, but I'm sure it's just extraordinary, and we're always fortunate to have them, and that's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Board Member Lau. Said your name right. Now, Dr. Meneville, does your executive team have anything to report out?
I don't think so.
Okay, moving along. Our first order of business, our consent agenda. May I have a motion to approve consent agenda G1 through G8?
So moved.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I second.
Thank you so much. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The motion of the consent agenda passes 5-0. Next, we have our curriculum adoption of 2021-2022 school year. Dr. Mendenville?
Thank you, Madam President. We'd have Mrs. Wilson, Stacy Nielsen, I'm sorry, Stacy Nielsen? Or is Brent giving the presentation for Mrs. Whitus? Here she comes. Stacy White is going to be providing information on the curriculum adoption for the 21-22 school year. Stacy is our Director of Instructional Services, and we couldn't be more thrilled to have her join the team, and she's been truly invaluable in many, many ways, and this is just one area where she shines and has done a lot of work with our teachers and staff. So, Stacy.
Madam President, Vice President Garcia, members of the board, Dr. Mendenville, good evening. The work this year for our curriculum adoption committee began in July, where the assistant principals of academics were provided with the course proposals forms, and they were given a deadline of August 28th, 2020 to submit those course proposal forms to the teaching and learning for any proposed new additions or proposed changes to any of the courses that they wanted to recommend for implementation for the 21-22 school year. The committee consisted of 21 committee members. That is 7 APs, 7 teachers, and 7 parents. That's 21 total members, 3 from each site, an AP, a parent, and a teacher and/or counselor. So all proposals that were submitted to teaching and learning were provided to the committee prior to our first scheduled meeting so that they could review them. The district committee council, then this year we had to meet virtually. And so we did meet virtually on September 15th, to review all the proposals that were submitted. At this first meeting then, we outlined the process of the committee work, and we also reviewed the board policies, IGA and IGD, in our meeting. And then every course proposal that was submitted, we went through in detail, individually, so that the committee members had knowledge of the proposal and that they were able to ask any questions to either the content specialist, the CTE director, and or the APA who submitted the proposal from that campus. So the committee reviewed all that work, and the members then had opportunities to ask questions and to receive clarification. Then that committee, all those members were asked to go back to their sites then, and they were tasked with pretty much exactly the same course design that we did in our committee work. So they were to take that back to the sites, and they were to assemble then a committee at their site to discuss and to show these proposed courses. They were to review them and receive feedback from their site committee members as well, and then share these with their administration teams. So once they did that, then their responsibility was really to evaluate the course proposals and then come to the meeting, our next meeting, which was also virtual, which was on September 29th, with a recommendation to make to teaching and learning for each of these proposals. So we held our next and our last meeting on September 29th, where we discussed the proposals again, and we clarified any questions that may have come up out of their campus process. We clarified that work that they needed to have answered, and a voting and a recommendation was arrived at and then delivered to the Teaching and Learning Department. In that recommendation then was submitted to Dr. Mendeville as well to review. So Teaching and Learning this evening is bringing forward 63 course total proposals for your approval this evening. And these courses have been made available for you to review along with the matrix.
Thank you. We have any questions? It looks like Board Member Hem does.
Thank you, Stacy. Good report and good job. Normally, we see these come through with a no here and a no there, and it was very different this time to see so much agreement. And it shows you did a very good job, I think, and I appreciate that. The only area I didn't see agreement was on the American Sign Language 1, 2, 3, 4. Those two classes. Now, I saw your note below, but I was curious what the discussion was that had 19 people out of 21 vote no.
Sure. So Tempe High was or is the school that has traditionally offered that class to their students during the course selection process. And so as the world language leaders, department leaders, got together, they had thought it would be a good idea, since it really hasn't been able to make on a campus, and since it was just not being utilized, that they would go ahead and request that it be deleted, because they didn't think that they would be able to find a teacher if it was to make, and or have enough kids to offer it. And so Tempe High requested in their information that they be given an opportunity to offer it again this next school year, in hopes that it will make. And they've had just off and on. So it's made, then it hasn't made, and then it's made. And so they would like the opportunity to be able to do so again. If we were to delete it from the book, the conversation then went around in regards to they would have to wait pretty much a 2-year cycle. So they were like, we don't really want to wait 2 years. And so they wanted to keep their options open for their students. And so that was the discussion in regards to then leaving it on and not deleting it, so that Tempe High would be able to do so.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Board Member Hem. Vice President Garcia.
Thank you so much for being here tonight and for sharing with us. I have a few questions to kind of elaborate on Board Member Helm's point on sign language and your explanation on and story and background on it. Do you think that this is a course that could be offered at more of our different sites? Should that, one, the need be there, but also two, if we have enough staff to accommodate those?
Sure. So, Vice President Garcia, the APAs, the Assistant Principal of Academics, have engaged in conversations around these singleton classes that we offer on certain campuses but not on other campuses, and finding ways as we move forward to potentially open that up to other sites, so that kids kind of have like the same platform in regards to course offerings to be able to take based on their interests.
Yeah.
And so those are conversations that we have engaged in working towards like moving forward. And so Tempe High did say that, if we could figure something like that out, they wouldn't be opposed at all to have a student concurrently enrolled to their school to be involved in that. especially I think as we're making that move in our virtual, our digital, learning, we're getting better at it. And I think that we would be able to, perfect something like that, in the near future.
Great, thank you. And then I also wanted to, thank, obviously, you, the committee, for all your work, and also to Melissa Wendell and Maggie Fountain for bringing in the computer program 3-4 and Mandarin Chinese 2. I think those in particular will help especially increase the interest of our students, especially from our feeders. And I know Kyrene has a robust program that they're wanting to have folks continue on, especially with us. So thank you for that. My last common question was with regard to the course, the change course title for business management to financial planning. And I wanted to get your, thoughts on what the difference is from financial planning to financial literacy, because I know that has been a conversation the last few years and has been brought up a few times.
Sure. So I'm not, I would say, confident to be able to give you like an answer that's probably more in, Dr. Frimmer's area. But the discussion that she brought to the committee was aligning that coursework to the CTE coursework through the Arizona Department of Education, to not have two different things, but to bring what they're asking us to do in content standards, name, and curriculum to this course.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much. That's all I have. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Vice President Garcia. Board Member Him.
Thank you, Madam President. I neglected, when I spoke before, to thank Darcy Boggs and Maggie Fountain. I had reached out to them both by phone, and they responded to my questions concerning this. So I wanted to publicly thank them for their work.
They did a lot of amazing and hard work to make sure that our coursework has accurate readings in regards to like our AP and our dual enrollment, and that we're making sure that we're saying what it really is, and that is what we're offering it to be. So they did amazing work, and a lot of it, so thank you.
Okay, Board Member Lau.
First of all, always thanks to the committee and their time they invested in this. I had a quick question. When new classes come available, are they available at all sites if there's a teacher that can teach those? You have to find a teacher. I mean, so the computer programming 3-4, I would assume is going to be taught at Mountain Point, but will the other schools also have the option to teach that?
So currently, I think almost all of the sites offer some form of the computer programming at different levels, and so as they offer coursework and kids want to continue on, then they will continue to build on that.
Okay.
And so sites get to choose what classes based on sections, based on their teacher qualifications. And so I think that kind of leads into Vice President Garcia's, with those singleton or those little specialty areas for sure.
Thank you, Board Member Lau. Board Member Barraza, did you have a question?
I just have a couple of quick ones. First off, please thank the committee, please thank staff, everyone involved. I know a lot goes into this, more than we realize. There's a lot of alignment having to, come about these programs and thinking about longevity. I think it's great, we're bringing in computer programming 3-4. I think it's great, Mandarin Chinese 2. It's always difficult to be able to move those, forward, especially at the high school level. So the work they put in to request that we add those, I don't even have to ask. I know that they've thought about the longevity aspect and the teacher aspect. I've talked to Ms. Wendell, before, and she's very much, committed to technology and, the STEM aspect of growing our CTE programs. And please please convey my thanks to Dr. Freemer too, as well. I've been able to sit with her, and the dedication they put into the CTE programs, I think, is incredible. Just a couple of just quick questions in general so I can wrap my head around stuff. Change in course descriptions and titles, what's the intent behind those? Is that more of the alignment aspect? And what are we aligning it towards? Is it the collegiate, like being able to put in credits?
So some of the alignment had to do with AP, and when they change their names of their courses, then we make sure that we change the name so that the AP class is what the AP class, is with the College Board. Some of the changes have to do with baccalaureate, International Baccalaureate at Tempe High. And so, once again, that's a certified national program, and so we want to make sure that we're in compliance and offering the classes appropriately. And then that other piece is exactly what you're speaking of, having to do with college and NCAA and the ABOR requirements. And so we just want to make sure that our transcripts and all of our curriculum and coursework that we're offering is understood on our transcripts and gives our kids the best opportunities in regards to being able to be accepted at colleges as they work towards that.
I appreciate that explanation. That was wonderful, because really that's what I want to convey in all the hard work that everyone puts into it. We take for granted that our kids take these courses and we'll work towards a diploma and it's going to mean something. But there's so much that goes into it. You nailed it in terms of the athletics, in terms of the arts programs. And it's just wonderful to see so many people invested in making sure that our courses are aligned. And is that why, my last question, is that why the deletion of those courses are recommended, is because the adjustment, the alignment?
Some is based on the alignment, and then somewhat like in CTE and some of our upper level language coursework, that when they get to a certain level, to offer it at the language of honors and at the AP and at the regular, it's hard to be able to offer sections in all of those areas. And so if all of our predominant number of kids are in one area, then we try to align that. So like our Spanish 9-10 kids are in an honors level because they're at that level to be able to be successful, and that's why they're in 9-10. And so we just aligned that coursework that way.
So sometimes it's actually a good thing, because we've taken them to where at high school level they should be or exceeded, is kind of or also because the direction that they're choosing, I guess it's productivity, making sure we have a productive model. Is that what?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And instead of offering like a regular, an honors, an AP, when they're functioning at those high levels, they are able to be very successful and get great grades like at an AP level. So we might delete like the 9-10 just at the regular, and we might delete it at the honors, and all those kids take the AP. Let's use that as an example. And so less offerings, instead of having 3 in this class and 3 in this class and 3 in this class, we help them strive to be their best and be in that top level class.
I appreciate that. I'm always concerned with whether we're stretching our resources thinly when we offer classes, and that alignment helps me understand that it's always dynamic. We're always looking at that, and that's why we're deleting, programs, because, if, like, I didn't understand, so I asked the questions, and so it's like, to me, it's nice to know that it's a part of the growth aspect of all our courses. But thank you again so much. Please convey the thanks, from myself and all our board members. We're just so happy to have such dedicated and hardworking individuals in our community, because we really do need to make sure that our courses do matter, and so thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And I just want to make one comment that we restructured the teaching and learning department 3 years ago, Mrs. Hilgers, to prioritize content level experts. And that has served us extraordinarily well with this process, because you have people like Maggie Fountain and Darcy Boggs and Kevin Willis, and I don't want to, I'm missing some, but the content experts, they keep up with their area and their field, and it helps and benefits everybody in this process to make sure we're in compliance with all the credit gathering bearing regulations that we have through ABOR and the athletic areas, all of that. So the restructure has served the district really well, particularly with the individuals that were selected in those areas. So thank you.
So I just want to say thank you so much for your presentation. Thank you, Mrs. Hilgers, and also to the community and everyone who worked on it. Thank you. Okay, so it looks like we have no more questions. May I have a motion to adopt the 2021-2022 curriculum as submitted?
Madam President, I move to approve H1 curriculum adoption for 2021-22 school year.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Madam President, I second.
Thank you so much. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. Next on our agenda, we have policy GBEFA, staff use of digital wireless communications or electronic devices while operating a motor vehicle. Dr. Mendeville?
Thank you, Madam President, Vice President Garcia, members of the board, executive team. This is new regulation. It's a brand new regulation from the Arizona School Board's policy, rather, not regulation, based on legislative action. And so the ARS 28914 became effective, or will become effective, January 1, 2021. And many municipalities, including the city of Tempe, have already implemented this law. And what this basically suggests is that any employee may not operate a motor vehicle on a street or highway while conducting any district business if the person does either of the following. And I'm not going to read that to you, but we didn't bring it forward last week, this particular policy, because we wanted to tweak the language. On the second part that says that this area, this does not apply to either of the following. And my concern that I expressed in board briefings to you was that it wasn't very clear. It simply put that if we have employees who are driving any of our vehicles for the safety of everybody in the vehicle, that might be students, it might be themselves, but they need to not be distracted by the use of any type of device. And so this is a bit more clear in the fact that we have reworded it to say the use of voice-based communications. So those that are built into the car, including through the use of a portable wireless communication device or standalone electronic device to direct the writing, sending, reading, or the communicating of any text-based communication. And that was the piece for me, because people can get very distracted when they're trying to navigate, even by touching, to send a message, because it's the texting piece, it's the checking to see if there's an update with the mail, that kind of thing. And we want to make it very clear that any of our employees who are driving any of our vehicles, that there's just no opportunity for them to do that. This is a first read, so if there are questions on this or additional concerns or thoughts on this for clarity, we can take it to a second reading, or we can vote to approve it today.
Okay, guys, would you like to okay, Board Member Helm, we'll just start off with you.
We start off with me. I just wanted to thank you for cleaning that up and making it clear. Also, I was very impressed with your cross references. I'm glad that the bus and bus drivers, I'm glad that the student transportation and our business and personnel, all of that this policy will be out there everywhere, so there will be no excuses for anyone who does not follow it. And Madam President, I will make a motion that we accept on first reading GBEFA, staff use of digital wireless.
Thank you so much. Is everybody in agreement with that? All right.
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a second. All right, so all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you so much. Next, we come to business services. We're being asked to accept funds for 2 grants. One is the Trauma Informed Primary Prevention Program grant from the Governor's Office. The other is the U.S. Department of Justice Stop Schools Violent grant. Do you want to take these separately or together? Together? Okay, so Dr. Mendeville?
Yeah, before we do that, because these are both really wonderful grant opportunities, I want to call up Diane Welling. Yes, Diane Welling, that's who you are.
Yeah.
Diane is our wonderful coordinator of business partnerships. And part of that in the business partnerships, she's the grant writer aficionado. She just does a brilliant job of writing and securing and monitoring the grants that we have received over the years. And we have received millions of dollars of grants over the years. So Diane, I just want to personally take this time to thank you and all that you do for us in the district that impacts our students and our teachers so that they have more resources that we may not be able to purchase or secure through the regular budget process. But this allows us to do a lot of really important work with our students and train our staff to help out in ways that will benefit our students social, emotionally, through safety and the like. So I just want to give a special shout out to you and all the work that you do on behalf of our students in the district, and just thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, Board Member Lau?
I have a question for Ms. Welling. It's very difficult. Can you share how long it takes you to write one of these grants? How much time it takes? I think it's, pardon? I said that's hard. Because I know it takes a lot of time, and I think you should share that it's not just sitting down for an hour. It's a lot of research, and you put a lot of time into it, so.
Yes. Typically, we have 6 weeks to from when it opens to when it closes. I would say we use a lot of that time. I go to different administrators, teachers, and anybody that would be working within this grant, and interview or just talk and get their perspectives and that. So it is, and you got to do all the research and everything, but it's definitely worth it, and it's all for our kids, and it benefits them, and so.
She's being kind too, because
I know.
I have come to her and said, Diane, I think this is a really good grant. Do you think we can do it? And it's 3 weeks due,
And I always say we stole you from Chandler. Yay. So
yay.
thank you very much.
Thank you, Diane, for all you do. Vice President Garcia?
I just want to go along with everyone else. Thank you so much. And also thank you for taking the time to, when Board Member Barraza and I got on to just even show us what you do too. And just for the community to know with these 2 grants, one is $182,000, the second one is almost $500,000. And that is very, very impressive and amazing for our district, and continuing to provide the best excellent education that we can. So thank you so much for everything you do. We appreciate you. We love you, and
And I love my job, so.
Okay. All right, thank you. So looks like we'll go towards a motion. May I have a motion to approve business services J1 and J2?
Madam President, I move to approve items J1 and 2, approval of grants from the Governor's Office and the Department of Justice.
Thank you so much. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Lau. Well, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you so much, Diane. Okay, next is our resolution supporting the ban of vaping products. Dr. Mendeville?
Thank you, Madam President, Vice President Garcia, members of the board. This resolution is kind of in tandem with our lawsuit. It supports basically the ban of vaping products, and the governing board of the Tempe Union High School District calls upon the City Council of the City of Phoenix. We have 2 schools in our city that reside in the municipality of Phoenix, and that is Desert Vista and Mountain Point. But Phoenix is enacting this ordinance to prohibit the sale of flavored tobacco and e-cigarette products within the city of Phoenix. And it is our hope that the city of Tempe will come on board, but I think Mrs. Helm, you wanted to comment on that. But there are a number of notable organizations that are supporting this, such as the American Cancer Society, Cancer Action Network, the American Lung Association, the American Heart Association, the Big Brothers and Big Sisters of Central Arizona, to name a few. And it just gives our support of banning these flavored vaping products for our students. And there is a growing market for flavored tobacco products, and it's undermining the nation's overall progress in reducing youth tobacco use, which is at its highest rate in 19 years. So this resolution is I would support 100% and suggest that you do the same.
Thank you so much. So we have the governing board for questions. I know Board Member Hem has one.
Mine isn't really a question so much as it is a comment. When reading this and seeing just the city of Tempe and knowing that we are the Tempe Union High School District, not the Phoenix Union High School District, I was a bit concerned that our city wasn't down there. So I gave our wonderful mayor, Corey Woods, a call, and he graciously returned right away my phone call. I kind of told him briefly what it was about, and he said he'd love to present that to the council. And so I have asked Dr. Mendeville to send him some information, and hopefully you all will see something from the city of Tempe also approving and believing in this particular thing. So again, my compliments to Mayor Woods for his wonderful response to me.
Thank you, Board Member Hem. Thank you for doing that too, and looking out for the city of Tempe. Board Member Lau, then I'll get Vice President Garcia.
So just a little background. This started at the city of Phoenix, and they're hoping that it goes statewide. And one of the people working on this is our good friend Paul Yulin. He is consulting with the city of Phoenix, and so and Dr. Mendeville did say the reason we are is because we have two schools in the city. So the hope is that this goes statewide, and there's a number of states that are on board with this and are doing it across the United States. So I would suggest also bringing Paul Yulin into the loop with that, suggest that to Mayor Woods, because he would be a good person to share their thoughts with.
Thank you, Board Member Lau. Vice President Garcia.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to take a moment to thank our own staff that has been working on banning vaping products on our campuses, and our anti-vape campaign as well, and all the work that our staff has done to also put in that lawsuit on behalf of the district. So I just want to thank Dr. Mendeville, our leadership, and all the staff that has been involved in that work for years. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vice President Garcia. I also want to extend out a thank you to the district, but also give a shout out to our very own Megan Sterling, who has been working behind the scenes, making sure that our media is up to date on that. So thank you so much for all that you do too. And it looks like Board Member Barraza has a comment.
Yes, it's actually not, yes, it is a comment. It's not a question. Sorry, I was preemptive. More a comment. I really appreciate, that the district is making it a priority to make sure the safety, health, and wellness of our individual student population and our staff, is taken into consideration. It's a good resolution. My comment is more or less as we move forward, I like to see resolutions like this to include, if we're going to do it at the high school level, maybe include language that pertains to disciplinary process, and how down the road, I'm not saying now, but that we be more aware of the aspect of how it will affect the students, and we make a resolution that says we will pledge to help our students' population in a certain way. As an individual that was consistently under the disciplinary process and as a student, it felt like, any moment if someone just lifted me up, it could have changed the entire dynamic. We see students suspended for vaping, for 2 weeks. I'd just like to make, that out more of a commitment that we're going to work with the students and see how we can work towards improving their lives as opposed to taking away school, school time for them. So future resolutions, but as far as right now, I think it's great. I think it's good language, and I think it makes a lot of points very precise and good arguments for why we need to support this.
Thank you so much, Board Member Barraza. Looks like we're going to go for a motion. May I have a motion to approve the resolution proposed by Tobacco Free Kids?
Madam President, I move to approve item K1, resolution supporting the ban of vaping products.
Thank you so much, Vice President Garcia. May I have a second?
Madam President, I second.
Thank you so much. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. Next, we have our financial report through November 12th. Is there any questions on that? All right, so our last item is our COVID update, and we'll bring Mrs. Kim Hilgers back up to do our public comment around this. Thank you.
Our first public comment is from Andrew Polak. Good morning. I wanted to let you know that this school year has been way better than I anticipated. I know the board has many factors to consider and are doing what they feel is best for our students and staff. I wanted to let you know that the hybrid model has been 100 times better than strictly virtual. It has been such a fresh breath of air to have students in the classroom. 100% believe my purpose in life is to stand in front of teenagers and teach them math. But more importantly, my purpose in life is to be a role model, an example, to find something in your life that you are truly passionate about and pursue it with everything that you have. I am unable to genuinely impact my students that I do not see in person. The staff and students have been absolutely terrific, following all safety and mitigation strategies. I do not think we need to finish this semester strictly online. Hybrid students still have a choice to stay home if they aren't comfortable going to class. And the students that need the in-person learning can continue to attend school on their days. I'm asking that teachers and students are given a choice. I think second semester needs to come down to students can pick strictly virtual or strictly in-person learning. My students that want virtual learning, I am more than happy to offer asynchronous learning daily. But the back and forth between the online learners and the in-person learners should not be an option for second semester. This is just my opinion, and I know you read hundreds of comments daily. I just wanted to let you know not all is bad in your schools. There are a lot of positives going on right now. I would hate to lose that come next semester and miss out on more opportunities to help my students develop into young adults. Thank you for your time. The next comment is from Brittany Jerez. Good morning. Teachers are burning out. We cannot keep this up. The current expectation cannot be the norm. Please help us out and start expecting more from students and parents. It starts at the top. Our next comment is from L.A. Kenner. Dear Governing Board members, I'm a recent retiree from Tempe Union. I served for over 20 years as a special education teacher at Tempe High School. Since retirement, I have opted to sub in special needs classrooms, and I still have many friends and colleagues who are teachers and many students I still know and enjoy. Although I, along with many other subs, have been strongly advised to decline offers this year due to COVID concerns, I did accept a long-term sub position at Compadre Success University. I worked in the culinary cluster, which involved and required very close contact with students for several consecutive hours each day. Although the students were generally compliant with masks, there is no way to social distance and still provide the necessary assistance. During the second week I was there, some members of the administrative staff became aware that one of our students had been exposed to a positive COVID situation. He was out of school only on Friday, but returned on Monday. We, the staff, were not given any details or information. In fact, we learned that others were told to keep it quiet. We were not made aware of possible exposure so that we could have taken necessary precautions over the weekend. Withholding such information caused doubt and mistrust in the district and its mitigation plan. Many professional special ed teachers have long questioned why the most medically fragile and vulnerable students were brought back to campus prior to any others, if at all. IEP needs can be met without personal contact. There are numerous other districts in the city who are continuing to serve special needs students at home in a safe environment for themselves, their families, and their teachers. Many special needs students have underlying health conditions and are on multiple medications, making them more susceptible to infections and complications. This is especially true in the moderate to severe population, meaning the life skills students. I, along with many professionals in my field, highly urge our district to stop bringing these vulnerable students and requiring their teachers to work on campus. Many of us would be willing to work together and develop alternative methods. It's only a matter of time until Tempe Union will be forced to address our acceptable rate of casualty, as in other districts. As was predicted, numbers are skyrocketing everywhere. Students are being infected and infecting their families and teachers in return. I can't imagine how many infections, hospitalizations, or deaths it will take to make us value the lives of our Tempe Union family. I know you care. I hope you will do the right thing and take everyone back to online only. We have been given a second chance to look in the mirror and do the right thing. Our next comment is from Amy Jamison. Dear board members, Mr. Mendeville and Mr. Ducey, I'm writing to you today to implore you to do actual in-person observational research prior to making your decisions about closing schools. As a parent, I see noticeable changes in not only daughter's grades, but her affect and personality since she's been able to attend school in person recently. She has brought up her math grade almost 10% alone. She's crying less, coping better. She has a zest for life we have not seen since February. And most of all, she's getting the education at close to what we could expect during these difficult times. She's finally able to learn with all her disabilities. Before you choose to close down the schools, please take the time to tour school during the school day. See how the children interact, how they learn, and how many students are actually in the classroom. Most of my daughter's classes have less than 7 students per class. The teachers have to teach, and some students need in-person learning. Right now, students are able to keep the social distancing model in compliance and are doing well interacting with the teachers. Most parents are choosing to keep their children home. The children who need in-person learning are on campus. Teachers are teaching better because they have someone to teach to as opposed to a camera and the internet. And most importantly, students can get the help and support they need to succeed. We are asking you to take notice and keep our schools open as they are so students who need in-person learning to pass may attend as necessary. Our students have been responsible in their behaviors and reporting illnesses as required by the school. Parents are doing their part in limiting exposure as necessary so their children may attend school in person. They are following procedure and doing what they need to do to continue in-person learning. Our data does not reflect closing the schools as significant transmission is not occurring on campuses. Our metrics are weeks behind in reporting, and our students have been on campus with numbers rising without significant effect on students, staff, or their family members. Thank you. Our next comment is from Deborah Abley. Hello, I'm a teacher in the district, and I've been teaching hybrid and remotely for this entire semester. I know that the numbers of COVID cases are rising and that many districts are closing. I feel that if we continue our safety protocol with masks and physical distancing and deep cleaning, we should remain open for students that would like to attend in-person classes. I have already experienced COVID 19 months ago, and I do not want to contract it again. But I also think there are many students that need the human interaction in the hands-on learning. We conduct safety run labs that really do reinforce the work we do on the theory side of our subject. Please consider giving students a choice before closing down completely. Thank you. Our next comment is from Jamie Allison. I'm the mom of a freshman at Corona del Sol who continues to struggle academically since the transition from online only to hybrid in-person instruction that began after fall break. While attending in person 2 days a week has improved his spirits on the days where he has social interaction with peers and friends and engaged learning, the Wednesdays through Fridays black hole of isolation and disengagement derails any progress gained week after week. It is further discouraging that the students attending in person on their assigned 2 days in a week is just declining precipitously every week as well. And it appears as if it is at the students' complete discretion whether they will attend school in person on their assigned days or be online. I'm requesting that the district consider full-time, 5-day-a-week in-person education or full online, similar to the Kyrene Middle School model for the third quarter beginning January 2021. This in-between is not working for the students or teachers. Thank you for your consideration. Our next comment is from Amy Beeman. My name is Amy Beeman, a parent of a freshman at Corona. This year has certainly been an interesting introduction to his formative high school years. Our family understands that there were difficult decisions to be made at the onset of the school year. Although we were proponents of a return to learn, it was understandable at the beginning as to why a tentative approach was considered, and we complied. We are enormously pleased to analyze the data shared recently on the dashboard that clearly illustrates Tempe Union Schools should not have been a concern of widespread susceptibility of COVID outbreaks like the general public's numbers reflect. Clearly, the district has been proactive in implementing procedures to keep this disease at bay, and we are extremely pleased and appreciative. Thanks for all your efforts in creating a safe campus, thereby proving the naysayers wanting everyone to remain virtual lacked faith that parents supporting in-person learning placed in our valued educators. Further, this proves parents supporting a return are not acting selfish, reckless, or inconsiderate for insisting that our concerns for our children's social emotional needs far outweigh the risk, reward, benefit, therefore requesting a push for a return to quality in-person education. In fact, proponents of an in-person learning obviously have conducted their behaviors in a safe and respectful manner to assist in lessening the spread. We are maintaining safety protocols so our focus can remain on the importance of providing a quality education for our youth. The numbers clearly reflect that those attending schools actually have less spread than those in virtual setting and in general public. However, we maintain, as always, that parents be provided the option for virtual if they so choose. Following the science of district data, we are encouraged that we'll be able to maintain on-campus learning. We look forward to an increase of days on campus for those that choose to seek education in person, as hybrid is less than ideal. It is imperative, now more than ever, we develop a system that fosters open communication between the district and its stakeholders, parents and students. Much of the strife, division, skepticism, and frustration created in 2020 is spurred by a feeling that the involvement of constituents is unwanted, undesired, unheard. Thankfully, Sandy Lau has been open to parent feedback and has illustrated a desire to understand the complete picture. I fear that with her leaving the board, those left might perpetuate extensive resistance, unwillingness to be. Our next comment is from Amanda Kohler. Dear Tempe Union Board, I'm a parent at Corona del Sol. Congratulations for the election results. I'm strongly in favor of our public schools and funding them and standing to support our students, teachers, and community. I'm attaching this article as a reminder that while we are all struggling now, it is our children that matter the most. They are the reason we are here and do not have a voice or a vote. I'm sure you know that many are in danger of not passing this semester. As you make decisions, please consider how you will help these failing, desperate students succeed. If a student failing, can you require teachers to offer extra credit? How about dropping the lowest 2 test scores or grading on a curve? Can they grade on a sliding scale? I've discussed this with teachers, school administrators, and our counselor, and no one is willing to take action. Please, I beg of you to take action on this. As you can see from the attached article, our children have too much pressure on them, and our community seems to have forgotten the not so far past. This has to be addressed now. After the holidays and grades come out, I'm afraid it will be too late. Our next comment is from Rebecca Royalty. Good afternoon, Tempe Union Governing Board members and Superintendent Mendeville. I am completely dumbfounded that the Tempe Union School District, who claim that the children and their number one priority, is considering going back to online at-home learning. Although I have been very impressed with our son's teachers during the online instruction, it is not good enough. 2 days a week is not good enough either. The children need to be in school 5 days a week. We talk about shutting down schools to protect the vulnerable population, but our children are not a vulnerable population. The singular focus on this one disease is creating a blind spot for the harm we are causing in other areas. Children are not only suffering academically, but emotionally, physically, and socially. 1 in 4 children have thought about suicide since the pandemic began. That is up from 4%. The incidence of child abuse has increased. Many children go hungry, except when at school. Are their lives less important than those society has defined as vulnerable population? With proper mitigation measures, schools have not shown to be a super spreader of COVID-19. Even experts who disagree about the appropriateness of lockdowns agree that schools should not be shut down. Schools are essential, and teachers are essential workers. They need to be treated as such. Kathy Hoffman and Kara Christ have both voiced concerns about having schools closed and have announced their Healthy Kids, Open Schools plan. Closing schools is not in the best interests of the children. I urge and plead with you to keep the schools open. Our next comment is from Don Westing. Dear board members, I know this is the time for public comment to be read. When, however, are the comments considered, responded to, and respected? If we are writing, we are concerned, involved parents that want the best for our kids and all the kids of the district. I would think you would want parent involvement in their children's education. Please respect our comments with a minimum the decency of a response, even if the response is no way we aren't concerned at all about what you think. Other than responses from Mrs. Lau and Ms. Helm, the most recent response call I received was just before the election. Complete non-response since. Interesting. Districts around the valley have had many different strategies regarding opening, including not open at all yet, hybrid, and fully open. And guess what? The COVID numbers are increasing in all of these areas. Is it possible, even somewhat possible, that the COVID numbers don't rely or coincide with whether we choose to educate our children or not? Is it possible? I think it is. However, in the meantime, there is data that is known. We know that children don't learn as well virtually, or at least most. I expect you know, and we have heard that failing students are increasing. I expect you know that absences are high. We know depression, suicide, substance abuse, and other mental health issues are increasing, and significantly so for our teens. We have to learn to live with COVID. Our children deserve better, and schools and families can make it happen safely and together. The Tempe Union High School District safety protocols are working. Your COVID dashboard shows few cases, and over 90% did not originate at school. Tempe Union has to deliver better for our kids. Imagine if stores like Fry's or Target were only offering online or only open 2 days a week. That is clearly what they would do if safety purely coincided with being open. Their customers that did not want that would be heading to Albertsons and Walmart. That is what is happening to Tempe Union and other districts. Customers are leaving because the product offerings are below expectations. However, many of the district kids don't have that option to flee and are suffering. And several of us that do have the option want to stick it out with Tempe Union and hope you finally do the right thing. But it is getting really old and hurting our children. Please open the schools more fully, 4 to 5 days a week, as soon as possible to gain all the benefits of in-person learning for those that want education. Those that are still in fear have the choice to stay home. Remember, students, and our last public comment is in Rod and Diane Palacios. Good evening, President Hodge, Governing Board, Superintendent Mendeville. My name is Rodrigo Palacios. I'm a social studies teacher at Tempe High School and the vice president of TSEA, and I'm exhausted. I've been closely following the decisions of this board and our district leadership, and I implore you to do what is right and not what is expedient or appeasing to only one subset of our community. We all want to return to normal, but there is no normal anywhere, and to pretend otherwise is folly. I wish everyone in our community understood that. I know these are hard decisions fraught with challenges, but we need you to stand up for the health and well-being not only of our children, but of our staff as well. Many staff are struggling with decisions about how to continue on this treacherous path. As for myself, I have to make a very heavy decision about whether to continue being a proud Tempe Union teacher. You see, last spring in the middle of our first shutdown, I came down with an infection that ultimately resulted in me needing an open heart surgery to replace my aortic valve. It was Swiss cheese, according to my cardiac surgeon. The surgery was a success, and I owe my doctors my life. But with this surgery came the reality that I will always be more susceptible to infection. It is a reality I will have to live with for the rest of my life, which brings me to the necessary decisions I have to make with my family. I was fortunate enough to receive an accommodation of working in the Tempe online school this semester, but as of early last week, that accommodation will not be available to me in the spring. I have several choices: return to Tempe, take an FMLA, leave, or resign. I don't want to resign. I'm a teacher. It is what I have been since I was 24 years old. Teaching has been my passion. Since before I was a teacher, I knew I wanted this career from an early age. Regrettably, my options are limited. I cannot expose myself to COVID-19. It will not be a mere cold for me. It very much could kill me. Returning to Tempe High School in the middle of the biggest surge of coronavirus cases in our state and country so far is not an option. I have loved every day I've been a Buffalo, but now I'm being forced to choose between my love for my family and well-being and my commitment to the Buffalo community. I know for many other of my friends and colleagues in the district, this is also a debate they are having in their own households. I beseech you to consider closing the hybrid model and returning to full virtual classes. As stated above, I understand
Thank you so much, Mrs. Hilger. So, Dr. Mendeville, we'll return it back to you, but I also, like Mrs. Hem said earlier, we had one email when one of our parents was concerned about credits in school, so I would like for you to, as a board, we would want us to continue to talk to that parent and give us more information about what's going to happen with their grades and, throughout the semester.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Madam President, Vice President Garcia, members of the board. Now on the agenda is our COVID-19 metrics update for the district. And we're so lucky to have Mr. McDonald be on top of all the data that's available to us through the various state departments and agencies. And so he'll be sharing quite a bit of information, and that will afford us an opportunity to have some discussion around this. Mr. McDonald?
Thank you. Good evening, Madam President, Vice President Garcia, governing board members, Superintendent Mendeville, and executive team, and the community members that are watching from home. Tonight, I will provide you with that COVID-19 update. We will do a review of the continuum of school learning scenarios from 3 different agencies. We'll review benchmarks and the selection of the delivery model. We will also review surrounding districts compared to ours, and we will review the metrics for the district. There is a lot of information here. I will try to go through that and then be able to answer questions for you as we complete. So the first agency we're going to look at is the Arizona Department of Health Services. And why I'm showing you 3 different agencies is that there's a little bit a difference or maybe even a discrepancy with scenario 3. What you will find in scenario 1, the traditional, that's the same amongst all 3, that all 3 benchmarks must be in the green category. And we'll share what those metrics look like for that range. Scenario 2 as well in the hybrid, currently where Tempe Union is at least until tomorrow. All 3 benchmarks in the yellow or green categories. And then you'll also see here scenario 3 for the Arizona Department of Health Services, so that all 3 benchmarks in the red category. And then it says if you 1 or more benchmarks are in the red category, consult with the local health department. And so the 3rd agency we'll look at will be the Maricopa County Health Agency. The second one that we'll look at here is the Arizona Department of Education. And again, scenario 1 and scenario 2 are the same. But you'll notice here in scenario 3 that it speaks about 1 or more benchmark in the red category. What I want to also be able to say with the Arizona Department of Health Services, that was updated on October 29th, 2020. The first one of these recommendations was scenario 3 would have been 1 benchmark for 2 consecutive weeks, which is more so what you see here with Maricopa County. And so Maricopa County Public Health Services speaks about all 3 benchmarks in the red category recommended virtual with on-site support in consultation with the public health. If greater than 1 benchmark or 1 or greater are in the category of 2 or more consecutive weeks, then we need to consult with the public health about preparation for virtual setting with on-site support. On-site support means targeted support services offered directly to students when schools are not in session or for in-person instruction. So we still have the opportunity to provide some of those students that we heard about that might be at risk, might be failing, or need some more added support or even access, even in the virtual setting. What we'll notice here is the risk levels by the numbers. And so the minimal category would be in cases per 100,000, we have to be below 10 cases per 100,000, be below 5% positivity and 5% COVID-like illnesses, that's hospital-related illnesses. to recommend the delivery model of traditional. Moderate, in which we are now, except in the cases per 100,000, you'll see that it has to be between 10 to 100 cases per 100,000, between 5 and 10%, both in percent positivity and COVID-like illnesses, to be in the hybrid setting. And then substantial is greater than 100 cases per 100,000, greater than 10%, both in the percent positivity and COVID-like illnesses. That recommendation would be a delivery model of virtual with on-site support services. So when we first started this approach with the Arizona Health Department, they did a reopening checklist for us. And these were the categories to reopen to the hybrid setting. Cases had to be below 100,000, or I'm sorry, 100 cases per 100,000 for a 2-week decline or 2-week consecutive. Percent positivity here had to be below 7%. And that has since changed. Now it's 10%. And the 7%, I want you to know that it was only for the initial reopening. So we won't be looking at that number again from the state, although we may bring that number back to look at to move from what we would call a hybrid 2-day to a hybrid 4-day, and I'll get to that a little bit later. We have the mitigation plan, which includes the strategies to move within these categories and modules. And we also adopted the mitigation plan. It's been posted on our website. And I'd like to thank all of the people that are really using that mitigation plan, because I believe what you'll see here, our data is showing that because we are using the mitigation plan and the contact tracing that we're doing. Though it's slowing in, it won't eliminate where we're headed. So here you'll see Tempe Union compared to the surrounding districts. In Tempe Union right now in the scenario, and we're in moderate with a hybrid delivery model. We did hit the first week here in cases per 100,000 in the substantial range. Last week being in the moderate range. Tomorrow, we believe that this number shifts over. This new number will be above 100, and that this scenario will change to substantial, and the recommended delivery model will be prepare for virtual. We'll also notice that this past Thursday, our percent positivity was 5.32. It is going up from 4.21, which was here in the moderate area. But you'll also notice that our hospitalizations really haven't gone up over the last 2 weeks. And in fact, if you look at the last 5 weeks or so, it only went from like 3.2 to 3.5, 3.8, now 4.0, 2 times. When we compare this to our other districts around, of course, East Valley, West Valley, you'll see Chandler, Mesa, and Gilbert, all currently in the substantial and prepared for virtual delivery model. Now, why that is they have 2 consecutive weeks already in benchmark 1. Please don't be surprised that you will see that for Tempe Union and many of the schools and zip codes tomorrow when the new metrics come out at 9 o'clock in the morning. What you'll also notice with the other schools is that their percent positivity is much higher than ours. And again, I think that has to do with the mitigating behavior plans that we put together, the work of all of our COVID contact tracers and people actually doing what's asked of them in that, wearing their masks, being physically distant, those type of things. What you will realize, though, is that benchmark 3, which is the COVID-like illnesses in the hospital, really is kind of a non-entity right now. It will take several weeks for that number to go up. So to meet the need or the benchmarks of all 3 of them being in the red would probably be irresponsible of us when we look at the benchmark 1 and benchmark 2 that's going to shortly be here in the red. And I'll give you some predictions, best predictions after talking to Maricopa County this week and talking to our hospital or our doctors that we use, they believe benchmark 1 and 2 will be in the substantial range by Thanksgiving. That would be the third week for cases per 100,000. That would be the first week for percent positivity. Come December 3rd, we will be at both substantial for 2 consecutive weeks for benchmark 1 and 2. We see with some other schools as well, we see Queen Creek, Higley, and Buckeye all being in the substantial prepared for virtual setting. You'll notice that many other numbers are much higher than ours, and their percent positivity is more aligned with what's going on with Maricopa County. Here you'll see Agua Fria, Tolleson, Phoenix Union. Same thing where Tolleson is again very high in cases per 100,000. And then also they are in the red already for percent positivity. When we look at real-time numbers, working with Dr. Woodbury, he's able to share some numbers with us, working with Dr. Overland, working with Maricopa County, and the data that we see real-time numbers show percent positivity above 10% already. Remember, these are 2 weeks behind, and that's the important part. There's Scottsdale Unified, and of course, Cave Creek. Please note that today, or yesterday, I believe, Paradise Valley, who is in the moderate hybrid area with only 1 week in the range for cases per 100,000, has actually said they're going to go to a virtual setting next week. So what we see here is our Maricopa County benchmarks. And you'll see here for now 2 consecutive weeks, we've been in the substantial area for benchmark 1. When you look at benchmark 2, percent positivity, that is going up 4.7, 5.5, 6.3, 6.9. More than likely, that number will be in the 8s or 9s tomorrow. And again, as we mentioned, benchmark 3 hasn't moved a lot, but again, will continue to go up slightly. But again, we want to be able to focus on benchmark 1 and benchmark 2. Maricopa County believes we do the same, as well as our health professionals. When we look at the Tempe Union High School boundary metrics, we notice that we have hit for the first week in cases per 100,000 above the red in the substantial area. Percent positivity is now in the moderate range. And of course, COVID-like illnesses are still in the mild range at 4%. What will happen tomorrow is that this number will be again in the hundreds, which will make this substantial and this prepare for virtual. And so this will look very different tomorrow, much like many of our zip codes and our schools when we balance them or balance them all out. 85281 here, again, this would impact Tempe High. Same type of situation here. Percent positivity is actually still in the mild range, if you wish. But again, this will also be in the substantial area because we will probably be in the 100 range in cases per 100,000, which again, we'll throw that in substantial prepare for virtual model. Same with 85282, 85283, which will impact more of Marcos and McClintock, Tempe a little bit, and Compadre. 85284, same, that's in the Corona area. 85044, again, the same with Mountain Point and DV. 85048, once again, will probably be in the substantial range tomorrow. This has to deal with Mountain Point and DV. 85226 is one of the few that still are in the moderate range, we believe that they'll hit the first week for substantial tomorrow for cases per 100,000. 85040 is the Phoenix corridor area. This Tempe High has over 200 students in this area. McClintock and Mountain Point also receive open enrollment students from this area. This one has actually been in ebbing and flowing into this substantial range. Now, remember it said, as long as one's in substantial for at least a week, and then if it changes, like this one did here, but the percent positivity went up, we are still looking at that as being substantial, even though that's not 2 consecutive weeks in the same benchmark. It could be in different benchmarks. And then, of course, 85041 has to do with Tempe High and McClintock feeders, and that is currently at the substantial prepared for virtual. And in this case, this one is definitely very concerning because you're looking at not only benchmark 1, cases per 100,000, being met for 2 consecutive weeks, but also percent positivity has been met above the 10% range for 2 consecutive weeks. 85042 has went back and forth, but we probably will be back into the red tomorrow. Again, that will impact a little bit of Tempe, Marcos, and McClintock. And then we go into Pineal County. And Pineal County, of course, is our Maricopa students that feed into mostly Mountain Point, but also to DV. And in this case, you'll see that benchmark 1A is in the red and 1B is in the red. The reason why 1B is not yellow or still yellow is that that has only been below 100 for 1 week. So once again, but when you look at the percent positivity number of our Pineal County Maricopa students, that's at an 8.90 already. So chances are that all 2 of those benchmarks in Pineal will be in the red and will be in substantial. When we average out our students and we look for a certain amount of students, call an N number in each of the zip codes, and the N number we chose is 40 students per zip code. And we take that, anything higher, 40 or higher, we average those zip codes out, and this is what we end up getting for each boundary for our certain schools. So for Tempe High, we have met in cases per 100,000, 2 consecutive weeks above 100, which puts us, because of that, into the substantial overall risk and in a learning scenario of preparing for virtual. You'll see the same thing for McClintock. At Marcos, they're actually doing fairly well. They are going up. Chances are they'll be at 2 consecutive weeks for cases per 100, which will put them at their substantial range. Same thing with Corona del Sol. As we look at Mountain Point, very similar to Tempe High and McClintock. Again, 2 consecutive weeks in cases per 100,000. What we want to look at is that percent positivity as well. How high does that number go tomorrow? My guess is that it will somewhere be in the 9% from what we saw a couple weeks ago, and then we'll be in the 10% next week. Desert Vista is actually in the moderate area right now, and you'll probably see the first week, looking at the numbers, real-time numbers for that area, that will be the first week that they'll have a number higher than 100 in cases per 100,000. And of course, Compadre, very similar. They get most of their kids from several different areas, but they'll be, again, just like several of our sites where they'll be in substantial and in a prepare for virtual model in benchmark 1. So I want to make sure I share a little bit about maybe a prediction that will come. So we get the benchmarks or the metrics update every Thursday. Tomorrow we will probably hit, for most of the schools we saw, the 2nd consecutive week in cases per 100,000. That will put us in substantial. We'll also see percent positivity probably go up to the 8 and 9% range. The following week, which will be Thanksgiving, you will then be at the 3rd consecutive week for benchmark number 1, cases per 100,000. And we believe you'll be at the second consecutive week for percent positivity for most of your schools, of our schools. That would lead us to believe that we need to be looking at potential virtual setting or looking into moving into a virtual setting anytime after Thanksgiving and potentially after the Christmas break. But probably looking at your first date that if you look at benchmark 1 and 2, could potentially be by November 30th, which is the Monday after Thanksgiving. The important part about this is that I want to go back to this piece, is that there is that discrepancy. And this really explains that not really when you work with Maricopa County. There was a change that initially the first part was you'd go back into substantial if you hit one benchmark above the 100 cases or above the 10% markers. Then it went to 3. But what we're really looking at is when you're at 1, working with Maricopa County. And we've done that already, gotten great guidance from them. We speak to them on a daily basis in regards to our active cases and different things of that nature. We've also looked at the data that Dr. Woodbury from ASU has provided us, and he is able to give us some more real-time numbers than these numbers that are 2 weeks. And we see the increase in these numbers coming, so we know and can predict what's coming our way. And then our sports medicine doctor, Dr. Overland, believes that we need to be looking at also a virtual setting shortly. Now, hopefully with the good news that we're getting, and I know I haven't given you lots of great news, but there are 3 companies that are working on vaccines right now. And they're showing 90%, 94%, I believe 95% support. You may remember this, but we have changed it a little bit. And so I wanted to kind of go through that. If you remember, initially when we were reopening schools, we looked at this part right here, and that was given to us by the state, that we had to meet in order to go from a virtual setting that we were in first quarter to the hybrid setting. We would have to be below 100 cases per 100,000, and we would have to be, this was 7%. Now remember, that has since changed. We won't see that number again from the state. Now it's below 10%. The 7% was only for the initial reopening. And then, of course, we had to be below 10% for the COVID-like illnesses at the hospitals. With what we know now, we believe that when we get back into a hybrid model in a 2-day setting, that if we can get, this used to be 25 cases, if we can get to 50 cases per 100,000 for 2 consecutive weeks, have a percent positivity of 7%, and we took that back from what the state originally did, and then also COVID-like illnesses, which really, again, is a non-entity for us at this time, below 10%, we could move our kids from a 2-day to a 4-day setting. Now, the state also gives us how to get from hybrid to traditional, and that still remains the same for the state and for us, that cases have to be below 10. And we know we're trending the wrong direction at this point, but we hope with the vaccinations and things that happen in late 3rd quarter and early 4th quarter, we may have a chance to get to here, get our students back into a 4-day model, and eventually back into traditional. And with that, I'll answer any questions.
Okay. First off, I want to say thank you so much for the presentation. It was very, very educational. Thank you. So we're going to start off, and it looks like Mrs. Lau has the first question.
I just want a couple clarifications for our community that's listening. First of all, when we make decisions, we're going to look at the district as a whole, correct? We're not going to look at individual schools, we're looking at Tempe Union.
Well, I think we could look at our benchmarks several different ways.
Well, what are
So-
we going to base the decisions on?
Well, I believe that you'll see starting tomorrow that actually the most of the district will be in the substantial. By the second week, we'll all be able to close.
Okay, but we're going to look at as a whole, correct? Because the principals do not want to close one school, or they want to keep them all open or close them all, correct? So we're going to look at Tempe Union as a whole.
Board Member Lau and members of the board, yes, that is correct.
Okay.
In having a number of discussions with the principals, that was something that they were firmly firm on, because they do consider themselves as a family of schools, and we want to honor that. But I want to just comment on one thing, because we look at a variety of data, and with a hybrid model, and I think we've seen the some of the responses in the emails, but also in this report, that we've been able to manage the COVID cases that we have listed on the dashboard. But that's as a result of the hybrid model itself in an A-B structure with fewer students on campus physically. It also is as a result of the fact that we have students that have elected to remain home for three primary reasons. And those reasons are, one, the COVID numbers are not satisfactory for the family, and as a family they make that choice to have their child return to virtual exclusive instruction. Two, for social reasons, they're not in with their friends or their group of comrades at school. And then the third reason is that they're not seeing necessarily an engaged or differentiated approach to the instruction, so they might as well just stay home. So those are the three reasons that we have reduced even more numbers at our campuses. And I need to remind the listening public also that in our survey we conducted a while back, that our northern schools were at 60% in terms of a decision to have their children in a virtual environment versus in person, and it was reversed at on our southern end, where the majority of families at 60% wanted their students in person. So it's kind of reversed with what we're seeing, but we're seeing also a decline in the number of students at even on the southern end of our schools at Desert Vista and Corona and Mountain Point.
And I think it's very important to realize tomorrow, just to give you a prediction, 6 out of your 7 schools will be in substantial, including the Tempe Union boundary metric, and Maricopa County will be substantial, all within benchmark 1.
And then I just have another quick clarification. We're basing this on I have October 27th, I think you said the 29th, from the Arizona Department of Health. So this means that if only one of the 3 are in red for 2 consecutive weeks, we will just have discussions about possible virtual. But for us to go virtual, all 3 are red for 2 weeks consistently. That was what they recommended. Dr. Christ and Kathy Hoffman agreed. Is that what are we basing that on? Because I think the community needs to know the measurement that we're basing the decision on.
I'm glad you asked that question. When working with Maricopa County, which is what they direct us to do, Maricopa County and our health professionals would be looking at benchmark 1 and 2. They believe those will be in substantial for many, many, many weeks prior to benchmark 3 even meeting the substantial area. So I would not necessarily agree with that. I think we would probably look more so at benchmark 1 and 2 and not necessarily 3 to go back into virtual.
So that has not come out though in the public, right? They have not I have not seen that written anywhere from them as a recommendation.
It does say that you should work with your county, Maricopa County health professionals, and then they'll help you make a decision to do so.
Well, I want to comment on that because I think it was rather cavalier that the state made this change from 7% to 10% and without actually talking to school districts about that decision. And my concern is that to elevate the percent positivity to 10%, in my opinion, is not very responsible. we are looking at both the benchmarks, the two primary benchmarks that remain steadfast in the original recommendations and the ones that are of most importance, and that is the cases per 100 and the test positivity. So I would encourage that we remain in that manner when we're looking at the data as it impacts the rest of our schools. That's my position.
Board Member Hem?
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. And awful news is all I can think to say at the moment, but I do have a couple of points I would like to make. Could you share with us what AIA Sports is doing with their winter sports right now?
Sure, Ken. We just had a meeting last Friday, I want to say. AIA Sports for winter has postponed the start of winter sports until January. They will be meeting tomorrow with a group and then with the SMAC committee as well, which is their medical committee, to see if that they can get a certain date. But that's not set in stone either. So we'll continue to watch that and work with AIA and of course with Dr. Overland, who's our sports medicine doctor on those.
The reason I ask, and I did know it myself, is I wanted the public to know. In looking at our weekly information we get by site, I notice very often we've had people involved in sports that have come down with COVID, which is quarantined, of course, the rest of the team or something. And I was wondering how you might view the fact that AIA is stopping these winter sports. Will that help us, do you believe?
Absolutely, it's going to help us mitigate any further exposure. With AIA, we'll also be looking at the remainder of fall sports to see if that's something we have to look at, because the metrics, as you can tell, are increasing rapidly. We have seen what happened from Halloween already in our schools, and we will see what will happen from Thanksgiving, and we will see what will happen from Christmas break. And so this may continue these high levels, I would say up until about the 5th or 6th week of the third quarter.
And may I ask one more question?
By all means.
Thank you. It says prepare for virtual. How is our district preparing to go back to virtual should it be necessary?
Would you like to start that question?
Yes. Board Member Helm and members of the board. Great question. The nice an advantage of having, we're right in the middle of a hybrid model with two cohorts, A and B. And the whole mindset behind this hybrid model is that we can navigate fairly efficiently going exclusive virtual, but also the goal is to open up to more than, of course, 2 days, to 4 days, and then the 5 days. But with the curriculum planning and with the PLCs, with a lot of advanced planning, they can navigate that much easier today because they had so much preparation, professional development throughout the summer and then when we began the school year. So they are ready. I think the preparation that we look at right now are around the grading practices that were highlighted in a couple of the emails that I happen to agree with. And I know there was some agreement among board members, and we are having those discussions. In fact, I'm meeting with principals on Friday, again, for the 4th time, to review the students who need more attention, quite frankly, that in-person attention. And so the preparation for virtual is just that. We want to honor the high-need, high-priority students as well. And so we're trying to figure out how we can do that safely, but still reach out to those families, those students, and reassure them that if they do return to us because they are that kid who may have 2 or 3 Fs and they need to be in person, we're looking at our Title I schools. I think we forget that 5 of our schools are actually title funded, which means we have a high percentage of students that are in poverty. And so we owe it to those identified students who have high priority needs to address some of their concerns as well academically. And that's what we're planning for as well.
Thank you.
Vice President Garcia?
Thank you, Madam President. My question is geared more towards, and I know our legal counsel is not here, so we can circle back on that, but I wanted to ask, how does the executive order that was passed earlier in the spring impact what Dr. Mendeville was talking about with our at-risk and also, our obviously poverty, but disability students and anyone else that has that, and our compliance with that, because I do want to make sure that we are in compliance with what we're given.
Vice President Garcia, members of the board, that's a great question. It actually, because the executive order is still in motion, so it does permit us to specifically identify those students who are at greatest risk, that we know are at greatest risk, and we have the data to support that they are at greatest risk. And so it does allow us to invite those students to return back to campus for instruction in person. And that's the piece that we're navigating right now to figure out how we're going to do that successfully and safely, for everybody involved.
And then quick follow-up, and that obviously with kind of the teacher input and looking at what that is shaped as and how it's formulated, because I can imagine that there's obviously wide discussion around that and how to navigate that. But just to make sure that the folks that are here are also comfortable in doing it. So thank you for sharing that.
And that's the balance that we want to understand who, because we have a lot of teachers that want to help out and in a safe manner, and so ensuring that both students and our teachers' employees are safe as well. The other thing too is that we have to, our families are making that choice to risk sending their kids to school, and while I think they're the safest in school, I will agree to that piece and some of the comments that were mentioned in the email, because we do a very thorough job, a fine job, I think, with the health mitigation plan. We want to assure those families that it's okay to come to school, especially now since we need to help them out.
Okay, also Vice President Garcia, I was just told that if we needed to speak to Jordan, we can call him. Did you want to speak to him?
No, I think Dr. Mendeville and John McDonald.
Oh, okay, thank you. Okay, Board Member Barraza.
Yes, thank you first off for this presentation. There's a lot of information, a lot of work that went into it, and it's really thorough, and I hope the community can comb through it, and I hope they reach out to the district with any questions they have regarding that. I know how hard it was for us to get the information diffused through the community when we were doing the school openings and during the summer. And so, it's one of those things that I really encourage the community to come forward with the questions that they have. In terms of the model, I think I first stand with the aspect that I don't understand where the governor is coming from with all of a sudden changing the benchmarks. It was, I learned from watching the news, turning on my TV and then all of a sudden realizing, great, I better go check my email at the chaos. It felt like, there was no cause, no explanation to it. I still feel like that's not the case, or that's the case, and I just feel like the governor's office hasn't been doing a good job in terms of the support for our district or any education, public school district in general. I'm not interested in changing from 7% to 10%, and I really feel that communicating what we've been working on and what we committed to is really what we should commit to. I guess I want to, moving forward, what's the pulse of the staff? How do they feel about it? I mean, like what we're doing right now, is there some staff members that want to stay virtual? And do we have the ability to have certain staff members just be online teachers for X amount of time?
So I was in a meeting the other day where we had TSCA representatives talking about their anxiety with the increase in the metrics, and that they felt they would be ready to move back into virtual because they've already been in virtual. They already know what that looks like. You do have teachers, as we heard today, though, Andrew Pollock, one of my baseball players when I was at Corona, taught and coached him. Good young man, wants to stay and be able to see his kids every day. So you have both sides. We have to remember what's going to be best for our kids and best for our students when this part comes into the mitigation plan and the metrics and the safety. So I think you have both sides of your teachers at this point.
We have an opportunity to find out.
I want to respond to that, though, too, just to give you some additional information, if that's okay, Board Member.
Absolutely.
We have a survey that will be ending on Friday, and we asked a variety of questions. One segment of the survey is around the social emotional wellness of our teachers. You know, how are they doing? That kind of a thing. And then the remainder of the survey is all around the hybrid model and what aspects of the model are working, what aren't working, what do you need from us, that kind of thing. So we'll have more data to share once the survey closes on Friday. I know that I think Dr. Lexick was saying on Monday, because we opened it up at the end of the day on Friday of last week. By Monday, there were 300 responses, so our teachers were anxious to give some response. We'll learn more from that survey. But the other component, and I mentioned this in response to Vice President Garcia's question earlier, that I've met with principals now going on 4 times this Friday, will be 4 times, where we're talking about how can we modify the model that addresses some of the needs of our teachers, but also addresses some of the needs of our families, all our families. And what I'm going to explain right now is that we are solidly exploring options around exclusive virtual instruction for teachers who are successful in that format, that platform, and then exploring the in-person format for students who need to be there, but who also want to be there, and what that would look like. And I mentioned way back in June, the complexity of a high school only district. There are so many variables with a high school only district that elementary districts don't have to deal with in terms of the credit gathering process, credit recapturing, the NCAA guidelines, AIA guidelines. I can go on and on and on. So we're having to look at that. So we're looking to see what or how much of a disruption to the master schedule that could potentially be, and are there ways around it? So students who want to be at school and who actually need to be at school can have that instruction in the second semester. And then those teachers who want to be teaching virtually exclusive can do so in a successful manner. So we're looking at ways in which we can meet the needs of our families and meet the needs of our students and meet the needs of our teachers as well. And those 2 exclusive models would be separate from our Tempe Union Online. So we have a deep planning meeting going on Friday, as I mentioned, with our principals. We had one this morning with the executive team. We spent almost 3 hours on that. So there's a lot of details that we're trying to work out so that we are prepared one way or the other on January 1 for a variety of options.
I appreciate that. I think for me, ultimately, the concern is I think we have enough staff that want to stay virtual, that can teach virtual for those students, and some that want to be in person, we can bring more students on campus and accommodate that. I just feel like we probably just need to take a pulse of the staff, and so it's good to hear that we're getting that. So I really hope we get some really good responses, and I would just really, like to see that students come back, but at the same time, the option of our employees to be able to say, well, I can't under that new model, and feel supported. That's my biggest thing.
The next step really is, because we developed a framework, a foundation to make these kinds of model changes in our service delivery model. But the next step is going to weave in our teachers, because they're the ones who are going to need to tell me, okay, this works, this is an elective singleton, they've got all the technical pieces. And so I have spoken with TSEA and shared that once I have something a little bit more firm to share, then we can take that and work with it in a manner that's going to be conducive for everybody.
Okay, I appreciate that. Well, January's around the corner, so good luck with
That's why
all.
our work is so important right now, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, I just want to clarify something before we go any further. Will you clarify to the community that when you talk about doing like virtual teachers, virtual, like in person, that's separate from what we're looking at if we have to do virtual fully, so they can know the difference, that we're not going to just pop into that right now. That's something separate, right?
Correct. Right now,
Yes.
we are in a hybrid.
That's something we need to make sure that we clarify with the community.
We are in a hybrid A-B model. We've divided the student population at the sites in half, basically. And so there are some advantages to that I think we have realized through the contact tracing in COVID, so we have a better way to manage that. The disadvantage, I think we can all agree upon, is that the students are less engaged or not engaged at all. It's difficult for our teachers to maneuver both modalities when they were thrust into this. I think our teachers will meet and rise to the occasion at some point in the coming years? Yes, they will, but we need to provide them more professional development and have expectations along that way. But again, we gave them what we could in a very short period of time to do this. So that being said, there are the advantages and disadvantages. What I am most concerned about, and what's been shared in emails, and I think you would all concur, is that we have students that aren't doing well, that they are struggling. And that is of grave concern for me. So we are trying to manage a model, an instructional delivery model that addresses that primarily, but still honors what our teachers are saying, because our teachers are saying, this is exhausting to manage both. I'm frustrated, I don't know how to do it really well. And they want to do a good job, I know that. But we do have teachers that do extraordinarily well teaching virtually exclusive. They engage the kids, the numbers show success. And then we have, of course, the teachers that want to be in front of the kids. And we would be mindful, of course, with health mitigation, physical distancing within classrooms, so it's done safely. But all of this, it takes planning and time. So we're trying to manage the work in the next 4.5 weeks before we move on into the second semester and then close out first semester. We also want to afford, sorry, Mrs. Helm, we also want to afford the opportunity for those identified students to have opportunity to make up work, I think we had an email addressing that, and so they're spot on with removing assignments that aren't necessarily tied to the curriculum or the standard. And so there's ways in which we want to have students stay motivated and pass their classes and do better. So all of that discussion is happening right now. And I can tell you, in talking to my colleagues in the East Valley, they haven't begun this work yet. They have not begun this work yet. And so we're on it, and we're going to do our best to try to navigate through this pandemic and how it's impacted how we teach, how we learn, and how we operate. The silver lining to all of this is that this is temporary. This is not going to be the new norm. At least I hope not.
Okay.
just
We go to
wanted-
Mr. McDonald, then
Yes.
we'll go to Board Member Him and
My
Vice President
apologies.
Garcia.
I just wanted to revisit Mrs. Lau's question in regards to benchmarks. And when you look at this, and this is from the Arizona Department of Health Services, it talks about a county has this, where the bracketed areas, and the bullet below is going to be the important one. A county that has one benchmark in the red category for 2 or more weeks, even if different benchmarks, schools should consult with their local health department to determine whether to prepare to transition back to virtual learning with on-site supports. For example, based on the community level data, the local health department may make the recommendation for a school or a district to move to a virtual instruction, even if only one metric is in the substantial transmission category. So I think that answers that question a little bit better.
So, Board Member Helm, do you mind if Mrs. Lau responds back to it? Okay, go ahead.
Just really quickly on that, I agree with you, Sean, but I will say that Kathy Hoffman and Dr. Christ and several other health experts have said that shutting down should be the last resort. And you have to consider what we have in place as far as the mitigation plan and if it's working. And New York is shutting everything down, and yet they said today in a report that virus transmission in city schools have remained very low since classrooms reopened at the end of September, and the spike in cases does not appear to be caused by the reopening of school buildings. And I think that's what we have discovered, as well as the contact tracing has all been outside. So I agree, I understand what you're saying, but there's also these other side notes from experts that are saying as much as we can keep open.
I appreciate those comments. Thank you.
All right, now we'll go to Board Member Helm and then Vice President Garcia.
Dr. Mandeville, I've been reading that nationally, some school districts, because of the interruption and the virtual and some students not doing as well as they might normally do, that they are thinking of doing something through the summer. Is there any discussion among your leadership team or any group concerning maybe having some of our schools, more schools open to support those who haven't done well during this difficult time?
Board Member Helm, absolutely. Mrs. Hilligers and I have been talking about this for several months, and I've given direction to the Teaching and Learning Department to start exploring a different structure for our Summer Education Academy for that very reason, to identify those students who are in fear of losing credit. We want to be able to extend each of the grading periods into the next quarter to allow students time to finish work or to retake a test or things like that. But we also are going to have a different focus for the Summer Education Academy. Typically, we choose one school site and everyone, comes to the school and we have Summer Education Academy, and it's been very successful for years. My recommendation is going to be to have that different focus for Summer Education Academy at each of our school sites, so that students and teachers can work with those kids to get them caught up should they need, and I think with some of these mitigating factors that we incorporate today into third quarter, into fourth quarter, I'm hoping that we reduce, and I've used the analogy of a snowball as it continues down the hill, snow hill, it gets to be this giant snowball. I'm hoping that we can mitigate that problem for our students in that they don't become further behind with their learning. But yeah, there will be a completely different refocus and restructure of our Summer Education Academy for this summer of 21.
Thank you, and I'm very pleased to hear that, and I think it would be good information to get out to our parents and communities sooner rather than later. My other question is about communication too. Should we have to, and I really agree with Mrs. Lau, and I'm sure you all feel the same way, it's the last thing we want to do, but should we have to go back to virtual, how will you get the word out again that maybe from Thanksgiving to the end of this semester, we're back in virtual?
Thank you, Mrs. Hellman, members of the board. We need to not get stuck on dates, I guess, is what I'm suggesting, even though the writing may be on the wall. But until I read the writing on the wall, I want to be able to trust that information. While we do have good predictions based on data that's current, not 2 weeks old, we have to plan accordingly. I had a conversation with our sister district superintendents, and I know that Kyrene will be visiting this tomorrow in a special executive session. And in the event that Kyrene makes that decision to begin planning for virtual instruction, that communication is going to go out on Friday. And quite frankly, I would recommend the same. That doesn't mean we're going to close. It means we are preparing for virtual instruction and pretty much summarizing the comments that we have discussed this evening in a letter to our families, I would say as early as Friday, certainly by next week.
Thank you so much, Board Member Ham. Vice President Garcia.
Thank you so much, Madam President. I remain obviously concerned, as you mentioned, gravely concerned about our student success, in particular the ones that we see are continuing to struggle. And we also know that student success is tied to our teachers, because our teachers and our students are the ones that are directly receiving and giving that information, education. So my question is, we've seen a number of teachers reach out and share their capacity and their declining morale, as well as our students. And if we don't modify the current model, how does it impact our overall teacher and classified staffing levels? Because I would hate for us to be in a position that we don't even have teachers to teach our students, and that further goes and negatively impacts our student success.
Vice President Garcia, member of the board, that's a great question, but also observation. And so I think we're going to have a lot of data from the survey from teachers, as I mentioned earlier, on Friday, from which to plan accordingly. This may not be the only survey that goes out either, but I want to be appreciative and cognizant of the just the overall social emotional status of our teachers and staff, because everyone is worn out. I mean, I don't want to contract our services with students, and so, but we have to make sure that we are making the right decisions, and we base that on the metrics that we have available to us. But so that being said, I have received comments and feedback from our teachers, just more from an anecdotal kind of perspective, which is one of the reasons why we're exploring very heavily the need to change our service delivery model to have it one way or the other, where we allow our students who are in greatest of need be in person, and then have exclusive virtual instruction, because we have some teachers who are absolutely fabulous and doing a great job with the cameras and all of that. And then we still have the option for our exclusive Tempe Union online students. And so there are variables that we also have uncovered through Stacy White and some of the work that she's doing, where we can increase the engagement of students by doing a couple simple 3 things, actually. And so we're going to be sharing those things out with our teachers. But yeah, I firmly am aware that the hybrid model, while I still say it's an effective model, because many educational institutions use it and it works, but it's not going to work well if you don't have properly trained teachers who are actually applying it. And it is different with high schoolers. So I'm fully aware of that. So we're going to deliberately explore, and hopefully we'll have some outcomes that aren't going to be too much of a grave change for our master schedules. So teachers, if you're hearing that right now, and counselors, I apologize, but we're going to work together to make this best case scenario for our students. Help you?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Moon.
Okay. Well, it looks like our discussion, that part of our discussion has come to an end. We're also being asked to consider a resolution authorizing the superintendent to determine whether learning environments should be utilized for the district. Board members, there's a draft of the resolution in front of you. I'd like you to open up discussion so we can consider a motion. Yes, Ms. Board Member Ham. Board Member Lau, I'm sorry.
And I don't mean to be argumentative here, but I have a problem with even discussing a resolution that was not on the agenda today, because our community looks at the agenda ahead of time, and sometimes they make a decision whether they're going to listen or not. And I think it's unfair that we had not printed this for them to look at, because there's some out in our community that may have tuned in to listen to our discussion. So, and Tempe is actually discussing the same one tonight, and they did post it on their agenda. So I am not going to discuss this tonight because I don't think it's right to do this in front of the community, let alone take a vote on it.
Dr. Mendenville, you would like to answer on that?
Oh, I have a comment on that.
Yes,
That
comment.
Tempe Elementary, this is not identical to Tempe Elementary's, because part of the reason we spent some time massaging some of the language that's for Tempe Union as a high school only district, and that would include, we wanted to make sure we had input from not just district leadership, but our Teachers Association in how we go about things. This isn't anything earth-shattering. It's actually validating what we discussed this evening. So I don't understand where that would be an issue, particularly when most of the content in great detail was shared by Mr. McDonald. And this is just formalizing, as best we can, the decisions that we're already doing. So we're looking at, we have 3 models: the distance, the virtual hybrid, the in-person. That's known to everybody. The way we make decisions is in an inclusive manner in the district, with district leadership, with our content specialists, with our department leaders, with our teachers. We are using information, and this has been shared for weeks, and it's also on our COVID dashboard. We're using information, health metrics by the Arizona Department of Health Services, the Maricopa County Public Health Department. We look at the zip codes as provided, district level, school level, and I communicate. There's nothing here that would be new to anybody listening or out there in our discussions over these period of weeks. But I defer to board members for their direction.
Thank you. Board Member Ham?
In actuality, Mrs. Lau is correct. If it's not agendized, we shouldn't really be voting on it. However, due to these rather unusual circumstances, emergency circumstances, I would say that if the superintendent and his executive team feel it necessary, time-wise, to vote tonight on it, that we could go ahead with the understanding maybe that this is posted immediately tomorrow morning on our website and anywhere we can place it.
I want to just, Board Member Helm, thank you for that. I want to just be real clear, because the recommended action and the language and public content have agendized this, that a resolution may be considered in this meeting and in this presentation. In the public content, it also says the governing board and administration will discuss the COVID-19 metrics, which is what we did. And the board may also consider a resolution authorizing me as a superintendent to work with public health agencies to determine which learning environment, et cetera. So it's been in there in both of the areas where it needed to be.
That was why I said, even though this actual document hasn't been out there, that I believe that you could move ahead if you deem it timely.
The other piece, yes, thank you. The other piece is that typically when we have items like this, once they are approved by you, like this, the PowerPoint will become official, and it'll be for the public to see after this board meeting. And that's our practice.
Okay, any more discussion? Board Member Braza?
I still have a lot of questions, and I think maybe I would feel more comfortable that you and I had discussions regarding it, the language, and just the uncertainty of what our new model is at the moment. We're still waiting on teacher input. The effect of the resolution ultimately gives you full authority to open, close, otherwise the schools, and it begins tomorrow. So technically, we can go to a 5-day-a-week tomorrow based off of the resolution. So that's kind of more or less my concern is I don't know what January looks like in terms of the model. We haven't had feedback from the teachers yet regarding that. So I don't know if I'm comfortable.
Board Member Barraza, I'm going to comment on that because the current model doesn't really allow us to be 5 days a week. So that's not accurate.
But it still gives you authority to, it says right there,
What it says.
superintendent shall have the authority to determine the proper learning environment,
Based
distant,
on-
virtual, hybrid, that the district should use during the 2021 school year.
Right, it allows us to use the data that's provided to us from the Arizona Department of Health Services and the Maricopa County and with ADE. So we're using the same data, over and over and updated information. We're doing absolutely nothing new in this. The only new things that we will be adding, and I think they're appropriate to include, is that when I don't make decisions in isolation, and that doesn't say this. This says in consultation with the board, but also with input from district leadership, which we do, and with our teachers association. So.
But it does say you shall have the authority. After it says in consultation with, the superintendent shall have the authority to.
Because you hire me to run the school.
And that's why I'm kind of concerned with the new model that we're considering. We don't have any clarity, and I have a lot of questions regarding the model and the matrix and metrics and where teachers stand, where students stand. I don't know the model. And, this is also something that, what if a resolution that's going to affect next semester, I think should also, I just think we just need a little more time before we sign this to know what the model is going to look like for next semester. If it is a 4-day, I just don't know.
Well, we're not going to know what the model is going to look like for several weeks.
Then I guess my next question is just a legal question. Is the next governing board, if they disagree, are they to nullify it and put in a new resolution? Because now we have a problem where things are just constantly fluctuating, and we need stability. And so I really just need to see the model, what we're going to put into place in January. And I need to know how teachers feel about it and students feel about it before I can put this in play, on my name on it. That's all I have.
Mr. Barraza, I would just like to say this is the reason we place our trust in our superintendent. This is the reason when we do superintendent searches that we spend so much time and energy looking at the individuals, because this is what we are giving him to do, to come to us with the ability to make these decisions. So I feel totally comfortable with Dr. Mendeville making decisions. He's done a wonderful job through this whole COVID incident. And I remember us giving a similar resolution not too long ago to you. And I don't see a terrible amount of difference other than, granted, it wasn't listed on our agenda. I don't see a terrible amount of difference between what we gave him 3-4 months ago and what he's asking now. And I'm for it whenever you want to do it. I do not need to see your model. I'm sure you and your executive team will do an excellent job constructing it. Thank you.
I want to say I fully trust you. I think that Board Member Hem is correct. We have given you this authority before. We have never been a board to micromanage, and that's not what we want the community to see now. So we do entrust our governing board. And what I want to tell our governing board is Dr. Mendeville has been phenomenal at giving us the information. He has never made a decision without telling us about it ahead of time. He always consults with us. So it's not like we have a situation that our superintendent runs and does things and the board doesn't know anything about it. The board always knows what he's going to do ahead of time. So I, like Board Member Hem, feel very comfortable with giving you this resolution. And at this point, if we don't have any more questions, I'm going to ask for a motion. Okay, go ahead. Yep, look. Okay, go ahead.
I just want to say it's not about trust, not about me not trusting the executive team in the district. It's just about my responsibilities as a governing board member. I didn't think that there was anything wrong with us approving it. I didn't think there was anything wrong during COVID period. I just don't understand the emergency resolution and why I have to give up that authority. I can't put my name on it, I won't.
Thank you, Board Member Barraza. Vice President Garcia?
Thank you, Madam President. So to kind of go off of one of Board Member Barraza's comments, or I guess question, and to address that, should, because we don't have the input, obviously, of the incoming board. We don't know that. But what is that effect should that direction change come January, is my first question. And then I'll ask my follow-up.
Well, the typical procedure with incoming board members is that there are going to be resolutions that they may want to readdress. And I'm not going to manage that. If a board sees a resolution, because this will be given to the new board members if it's passed by you, and if there is information here or that they are uncomfortable with at any point, they can just readdress it. That's not an issue. But I guess my confusion rests with how are we going to make decisions then? I mean, you hire me to do a job, and I'm basing it out of information that we've been using for months now. And there isn't anything on here that is new. It's what we've been working with and doing. This formalizes, though, my ability to make this decision in consultation with you, but also in consultation with the executive, our leadership team, and also with our Teachers Association, with our teachers. So it's a perfect match. So I don't understand why it would be an issue to move forward, because I don't know what the option is.
Yeah.
I don't know what the alternative is, because then no decisions are going to be made.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, Dr. Mandeville. And also I think it provides that understanding that there's a safeguard should that be an issue. But also I want to thank you for at least including my comments and our conversation about, about the whole aspect of the resolution and making sure we had key stakeholders involved in that process. And also looking at, to make sure that we had looked at it from a contrasting view of what Tempe Elementary is doing to what Tempe Union is and what's unique to us. So thank you for that.
Board Member Lau?
I'll be abstaining from this, not because I don't agree with this. I think Dr. Mandeville is fully capable of making this subjective decision. I trust him, but I believe that many in our community feel very isolated from our decision-making. They can't come to our board meetings, and I would have liked to have seen something on our agenda. It wouldn't have had to been the exact one. We could have edited it tonight, but I think we've always had resolutions printed so our community could see them that we're voting on, so I'll just be abstaining.
Thank you so much. Board Member Barraza?
I also want to state, for transparency's sake, that the reason why it was we've kept it in executive content is because it wasn't ready to be formalized. So in consultation with legal counsel and getting some of the verbiage right so that we had it reflect what we actually do in practice when we're gathering information to make good decisions, that it reflected the right verbiage. And so legal counsel had that ready today, and that's when it was shared in executive content for you to consider.
Thank you. Board Member Barraza?
It's not a bad resolution. I think just for me, it's a stakeholders thing. It's a model, not knowing where the model, not knowing teachers and so forth. So I'm not a no against it, but I am abstaining tonight. I would like more information. I'd like more feedback from the teachers, staff, and community members regarding that.
Thank you, Board Member Barraza. So I'm going to make a motion myself. I'm a motion to approve the resolution. May I have a second?
I second.
Thank you. Since we have some sustains, we're going to go one by one on this one so that we can get the record. We'll start off with Board Member Lau.
I'm abstaining.
Thank you. Vice President Garcia?
Yes.
President Hodge, yes. Board Member Helm?
Yes.
Board Member Barraza?
Abstaining.
Okay, so it looks like it's passes 3-2 abstains, approval, so motion passes. Next on our agenda is our next meeting, regular meeting is December 2nd. Information about the meeting will be posted on the district's website. I move to adjourn this meeting. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you so much. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you guys. Have a wonderful night.